Hello everyone. I am pleased to participate in KindEarth.Tech's virtual update on kind technology and future food. Being tasked with identifying, creating, and effecting regenerative change and culture within KET, I recognize that we must look beyond our mental and spatial boundaries to understand how we interconnect with everything and how our actions resonate throughout time. My presentation examines several instances in the past when we made decisions and chose behaviors that seemed like good ideas at the time, but which in retrospect caused problems we never anticipated. Without agriculture, without farmers, we would still be hunter-gatherers. There can be no civilization without agriculture, but we now recognize the plow as being bad for soil, that often overlooked natural resource that produces more than 95% of our food directly or indirectly. Tilling soil destroys the soil structure. 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters of soil takes from 100 to 1,000 years to form, depending on climate, parent rock, and other factors. Each layer contains microbes and other soil-dwelling organisms specifically adapted to that layer and depth. Turning the soil brings lower layers with their niche organisms to the surface and vice versa, leading to their death and the loss of microbes in soils. There are more microbes in a teaspoon of healthy soil than there are people on the earth. Soil comprises living and non-living components. If you don't have the living component, then you have dirt. Nothing useful grows in dirt. Soil-dwelling microbes and other organisms represent the greatest concentration of biomass anywhere on the planet. All microbes are critical to soil health, but as an algae evangelist, I believe that microalgae in soils are the most important microbes in soils since they are the only photosynthesizers supporting all other non-photosynthetic microbes and higher trophic levels. Let's now look at single-use plastics. I need to preface this by saying, let us not paint all plastics with the same nylon bristled brush. Instead, we should address human practices and behaviors rather than think of plastics as good or bad. We humans made a conscious decision to move towards plastics in virtually everything we used. From the first celluloid material, Parkesine, which was not a true synthetic since it contained natural fibers, to the first true synthetic Bakelite, the world never looked back. There are now 7 major types of plastics in use. In 1950, the world produced only 2 million tons per year. Annual production has increased nearly 200-fold, reaching 381 million tons in 2015. This is roughly equivalent to the mass of 2/3 of the world population. Packaging is a dominant use of primary plastics, representing 42% of plastics used. This illustrates the remarkable interconnection between food and plastics. Natural alternative packaging options now include mushrooms, seaweed-based, pressed hay, and banana leaves. Our overdependence on antibiotics, antivirals, and other antimicrobials has resulted in yet another existential threat. We use far too many antimicrobials, resulting in antimicrobial resistance being induced in microbes such as bacteria, fungi, and viruses that can cause infections. We are effectively facilitating the emergence of superbugs for which we have no natural resistance and fewer medicinal alternatives. Our use of antimicrobials and our application of antimicrobials to animals are inextricably linked to the rise and spread of antimicrobial resistance. For virtually every major antibiotic, we have seen the emergence of resistant strains of microbes. Soil once again suffers from our misguided actions, this time from fertilizers and other chemicals. According to the Scientific American, March 2009, on an industrial scale, ammonia synthesis enabled the widespread fertilization of croplands. As a direct result, the world's population skyrocketed from 1.6 billion to 6 billion during the 20th century. Pursuit of meat-intensive diets requiring massive production of fertilized crops to feed animals caused many other problems. The ability to produce more food supported increased populations and allowed more sophisticated civilization, specialization, and development of modern knowledge economies. Yet fertilizer misuse causes tremendous damage. Some of these effects include increased greenhouse gas effects from the soil and agriculture, pollution of water sources, overstimulation of microbes that exhaust organic carbon in soils, depletion of soil nutrients resulting in crops with lower nutritional content despite greater yields, and fertilizer manufacturing generating significant pollutants. Aside from chemical fertilizers, we apply fungicides, herbicides, and insecticides. Here, yet again, we are selecting for the strains of organisms that resist our chemical assault. Living on a finite planet that recycles everything infinitely, we must find ways of living within the means of the planet. Yet all major economic models are predicated on growth. From a 2017 report commissioned by the Australian Conservation Foundation, 10 economic and social drivers damaging our living world were identified. Strongly interconnected and mutually reinforcing, reducing these driving forces requires some difficult decisions. Traditional economic theories focusing on growth and GDP as a measure of success can no longer guide us away from the path to an Earth that cannot support our life form. New economic models, such as donut economics by Kate Raworth, may hold the key to our survival. Driven by captivating, clever marketing campaigns, we chose meat-based over plant-based diets, increased conspicuous consumption, and accepted externalizing costs borne by nature, all leading to increased production, resource use, and waste. Could we market true regenerative and circular alternatives? Absolutely. So how do we fix all this? It is no longer enough to do no harm. We must move towards regenerative cultures, that is, humans doing things as and with nature. Key takeaways. All economic activity is based on nature. Ultimately, KindEarth.Tech in every sector must mimic nature in all aspects. No waste, no use of non-local resources, resilience through diversity. Hard decisions will need to be made. Managing human beings remains the most difficult task. Our innate greed and desire for more will always pose a challenge. We can and must keep Earth hospitable to us or face the consequences. Agriculture is the foundation of all economic development. Microbes rule the world. One size does not fit all. Countries and economies along the spectrum from least developed to developed have different priorities. There is no silver bullet. Interconnected problems require interconnected solutions. Extreme positions almost never succeed. Understand the balance necessary for true regenerative success. We need skeptical enthusiasm. We must apply all available knowledge, data, and information to decision-making so we do not find ourselves 20 years from now saying, it seemed like a good idea at the time. This has been just a snippet of the whole picture. There is so much more that can be said, so many more instances of us making poor choices. I hope that we can learn from our mistakes and together make wise choices for the benefit of humankind. There are some selected readings for those who wish to dive deeper. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the KT virtual event, Ninja Chicken, courtesy Olivia Fox-Caban. Goodbye.